In the desert oasis where stories ignite, Skip's little bar, a beacon of light. From the Coachella Valley stars to cool everyday Joes, join Patrick and Randy, let the stories flow. At Big Conversations Little Bar, the magic spreads near and far. Backed by the McCallum Theater's grace, celebrate the voices that shape this place.
From the coveted corner booth in a little bar at the center of the Coachella Valley universe, welcome to another Big Conversation with Patrick Evans and Randy Florence, presented by the McCallum Theater. Visit McCallumTheater.org or reach the box office at 760-340-2787. Gentlemen.
Well, we are here, Howard. Thank you very much for that kind introduction. We're back here in the corner booth at Skip Page's Little Bar in Palm Desert, California. This is Big Conversations Little Bar. My name is Patrick Evans. I will be serving as your host for the remainder of the afternoon, and my co-host, Mr. Randy Florence.
Well, let's introduce our guest.
Yes, we're very excited to have Steve Rosenbaum as our guest.
Very excited.
Co-founder. Why? Co-founder of the Bent Theater.
You'll find out why.
That's right.
And artistic director.
Yes.
At the Bent.
And, we had Terry on kind of early on in our run, and he's hysterical. That guy. So we were very excited to have you, the other half of the dynamic duo.
Well, it's nice to be here.
Can you confirm your first meeting with Terry?
Yes.
He was a baby seagull.
That is very true.
And you raped him.
That is true.
Well, I need some more. Wait a minute.
Some context?
I feel like there's context
There's
missing.
no context.
Let's just move on to the
He was a seagull and I raped him. What's next?
Well,
it had no impact on his life.
Talk to us about that meeting with Terry.
Well, it was not necessarily a meeting. It was a show that we did. It was called Lesbian Seagulls.
I don't know why that's funny, but it is.
Well, the lesbians needed 3 men to move their scenery, so they hired 3 men, 3 actors, they called us, and one was myself, one was a gent named Raoul Staggs, who to this day is a good friend of ours, and the third was Terry Ray. And we were the men in this lesbian production, and we literally moved the scenery, and and they gave us a token scenario, one of which was that Terry was a bird, and I was a hunter. And Terry, and this was, God, we're talking 30-something years ago at the Celebration Theater in L.A., which was the gay theater there, ironically.
Ironically. Is that when it all started?
It all started. I was straight before that show. Cock was not in my vocabulary. You're kidding. But literally, the 3 of us bonded very well because the emphasis was on the lesbian storyline. Granted, they had all this stuff to do. So left to our own devices, we were left to our own devices. And there was a scene that was staged, and Terry, very tall, very thin, bald, even then.
Yeah.
The costume was he had the tall Terry, one feather, like a 9-inch feather sticking out of his head.
And did that cover up his hair? Because there wasn't a lot up there.
The hair, yes, it did.
Hair.
He's going to be mad at me. But
I
on
suspect
his
that he
knees,
just told everybody the feather was 9 inches, but it was really 7.
Thank you. It just looked 9 by comparison. On his knees, he had these 2 balls. So he looked like a gawky bird, and he had no dialogue. I was a hunter, and they basically the long story short of this story is that the director paid us no attention, never gave us notes, never gave anything, and I'll do whatever I do until you tell me not to. And literally, Terry was in a nest, and I was the hunter, and as each performance progressed, the hunter, me, got closer to him until literally, I swear to God, he's right, I literally was in his nest with him on one performance, literally fucking him. And Terry being the brilliant actor, brilliant improvisationer. I don't know many better than him. Well, his only reaction was, quack! Quack! So, and then the lights faded, and we never got a note of it.
Really? They never said?
Never.
The director never said anything?
Swear to God. And not only this was a big hit. We got LA Week pictures. It was a big show.
Well, arguably, you in the nest doing what you're doing is better than getting shot. I mean, like,
I agree.
It's a.
But it also sounds
I
like
saved his life by fucking him.
it seems like a future screenplay.
Well, then Terry will have to write it.
Oh my gosh!
But
so that was how you two met. That
is true. And then I was whatever I was back in those days, but literally, and I didn't know Terry very well at that time, but just as another actor doing this to another actor, literally, he would be about to walk on to make an entrance, and I pulled his pants down. And the guy never once said, "Don't you ever do that to me." He just went with it, and
he spent a lot of time on stage with his pants down. So
he has since.
Yes. He realized he was comfortable with it.
He was good at
that's
it.
because of you. Congratulations. Terry owns his pantsless career to you.
Well, in the teeny bit, the comfortability factor.
We don't want to talk about how teeny, but thank you. So
it's just.
But yes.
So
we've gone to
truly have been good friends ever since.
And it's
yes,
good friends ever since, but also now
working. Yes, you tell me. You ask the question, I'll answer.
No, that's where I'm going. You guys have worked together. You directed the longest running play in Palm Springs.
That is very true. I directed Terry's. He wrote Electricity, which started in L.A. Not many, but I don't know. 8 years ago, 7 years ago, I don't know whatever it was now, and it was a lovely success. And then the powers that be led it to Palm Springs, and it had a run in a motel because it was set in a motel, and then from that got a run at Oscars where I think it played for 2 years.
It did, yeah. It was
longest running play
and it's a great play.
Yeah.
Terry wrote it.
You did a.
I did a Q&A.
That's how I first met you.
That's right. So they were
it's a good thing you weren't wearing a feather.
He was wearing a fig leaf.
Fig leaf. Yeah, no, it was so after each performance, they would do a Q&A with the audience, and it was kind of a roundtable discussion. And I think I was the first straight person you asked to come in and do that.
Oh, you're straight?
Today.
What am I doing here?
Today.
2 years. I haven't turned him yet.
We're going to discuss what Terry's acting class did to you. We're going to discuss that.
Well, that's what I hear, that you became gay after taking Terry's acting class.
I mean, I don't know what became means.
Wait.
There had to have been something.
Another one of these.
There had to have been something latent there to begin with. So,
well,
I walked into class one day and I was wearing a matching turquoise ball cap and jacket, and I don't know what kind of pants I had on, but the shoes matched too.
Were you dressing like Ruta Lee?
I didn't know at the time, but I've seen pictures since. But Terry looks at me and he just goes, 2 months. 2 months, and we got you.
Yeah. Well, the last time Terry was on Eye in the Desert, he says, I think we're only about 3 weeks out.
It would be my pleasure.
Which was about 6 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. That's why I had to move to Oceanside.
That's right.
So let's go way back.
Yes.
Born in New York.
True.
Brooklyn?
True.
And how long were you there?
About a week and a half. Twice on Sundays. I was there. Well, I grew up there, and I suppose my tenure in Brooklyn lasted until I moved out of my parents' house into Manhattan at about 20 years old.
And you were doing theater there as well?
I was going to be a doctor.
Okay.
So
did your parents want that?
That was his plan.
Are you kidding?
So theater was your plan B?
Damn it.
No, being a dentist was my plan B.
You've wiped out half my questions.
I'm sorry.
Being a psychiatrist was my plan C. Then being an actor was plan D. But it all happened because literally pre-med, Brooklyn College, going to be a doctor, parents ecstatic. I was voted most likely to succeed when I graduated high school in Brooklyn.
And which Brooklyn high school did you go to?
Canarsie. Canarsie is a strange little town. It is the last stop on what was then the LL line, which was one of the worst lines in the whole city. It's now one of the best lines, and they call it the L. And now every bad neighborhood that I was the only kid riding that subway in the middle of the night, they were all bad neighborhoods. They were all $1 million neighborhoods now. Williamsburg, you wouldn't be caught dead in there, and you would be caught dead in there.
Now you might end up dead.
Yeah. In the 1960s, 70s, Williamsburg was a bad town.
Bad. And that's
totally gentrified now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Were there doctors in the family?
No. They needed them.
Yeah.
They needed a psychiatrist?
They needed that, too. But so that's what...
So you were doing pre-med. What bumped you out of that track? Did you just decide...
Failing every science course. That was a good indicator.
Future patients everywhere were very happy with that decision.
I could fake it. There was a girl named Kathy Puma. Gorgeous, physically beautiful creature in Brooklyn College in Chem. Brilliant. Let me cheat off of her through all of it, and I would make her laugh. But I realized Kathy's going to go on to her own career. I'm going to kill people.
You're not going to be able to cheat through surgery.
I can't fake this. And so I was really depressed. It was like I crashed into a wall, and my parents sent me to some high-priced psychiatrist in Manhattan, and I loved that because his office was right on 79th Street, right off Fifth Avenue, and I'm assuming you know New York
a little bit.
It's a nice neighborhood.
It's a nice neighborhood.
And I'm taking the LL line into Manhattan. So I in my head was pretending that I lived in this building. So I didn't mind going to it, but I would only go into it. I would see if people walking down the street. Then I'll go into it so that they would think I lived in this. But Dr. Kapoor, his name was, and he was supposed to put me, make sure I wanted, whatever, that I was a happy man who was going to be happy being a doctor. Turns out that Dr. Kapoor had a specialty, and unbeknownst to me, because we never talked about it, of if you think your kid is gay, you send him to Dr. Kapoor.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that.
Did your parents know that?
I guess my mother... Oh, you are awesome. Thank you.
Speaking to the support here from Little Bar.
The two of you. Oh, you mean that wasn't your hand? Anyway, I'm babbling. See, I'm not good at this. I'm babbling.
No, you're great at this. So, but I get what... and I'm kind of curious. So, you think your mom... knew you were gay or suspected you were gay?
I never told her. Yes.
And she sent you there for dual reasons, try to get you back into med school, but also to straighten you out.
Yes.
Wow.
To answer your question.
That's kind of heavy stuff.
Yes. I didn't really process it in the time it was happening because on one of these, and I used to, and it worked conversely, I would not leave the building. I would look and make sure of people coming down the street.
They need to see me coming out of this building.
Swear on everything to me. That was what that experience was. Then I told Dr. Poor one day, I was probably with him, it was fun. So I went. I like people that think I come. So about a year, I went with him, and one day I finally told him the thing that I've never told another human being. I can't even say it. I can't even tell you now. I've told very few people, but I told this doctor this disgusting secret that I had. I'd never said a word. Didn't say anything. And I'm like sitting, and it was very Freudian because I did lay down in the couch. And he didn't say a word. And I never brought it up. And I never, basically, a couple of sessions thereafter, I didn't know what to do. Do I talk about, do I bring it up? Did you hear what and then I said, I stopped going. So I still have those serious problems that I had back then, but I did enjoy all the times I walked in and out of the building.
So you told him this deep, dark secret, and he never addressed it?
Swear to God. I would tell you now, but I can't even say it. What I thought I did that was so horrible. And I told this doctor, Dr. Kapoor, I've told 2 people in my life since.
Did they react?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
They said, They said, you're disgusting. You should be arrested.
But the doctor was kind enough to not say that out loud.
I think he was convulsing.
So clearly he was unsuccessful with what your mom intended him to do.
But he's just an asterisk to it, because on one train ride, and this was like my preppy phase, and I was Ralph Lauren clothing, and I was doing my science homework on the subway, and there was this guy, literally. I'm going to Dr. Kapoor's office on 79th Street. I think the train station was 77, and whatever it was. And this guy stands over me. Do you want to hear this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This guy stands over me. True, all of it's true. Stands over me, and suddenly there's this crotch in my face, and it's going like that from the emotion. And I look up, and this guy looks down at me, and he said, "Were you at a chorus line last week?" And this is many years ago. Chorus Line was in its original run. And I looked up and I said, yeah. And the train stopped and I was getting up, and this guy followed me out onto the subway thing. And he said to me, I was at, I saw you. He said, I was coming out of my stage door, and I saw you coming out of a chorus line, and I followed you to Rockefeller Center, and I lost you. Wow. And I knew I did that. And I said, well, okay, yeah. And he said something, and I'm not going to say it now because it was very complimentary, and it would be too much patting myself.
No, what did he say?
He said to me, you're beautiful. And I'm a kid who's going to a psychiatrist to try to figure out what I am. And this man says this to me, and I know that happened because I did. And then he gave me his telephone number. Turns out, this guy who I did go home, I happened to call him that night. This guy, turns out he was doing a Broadway show called Strider at the time. He was an actor, and he knew a lot of people, and wound up, long story short, getting me. Said, you're not a doctor. Then I called him and we had a lunch, whatever it was. He said, you're not a doctor. You're an actor. You're an actor. And he got me my first job working for a guy named Robert Calfin, who's a big, huge guy. He's no longer, but I got a job working at the Chelsea Theater Center in Manhattan, working on some off-Broadway play, and that changed the trajectory of. I stopped pursuing being a doctor in college, and I changed my major to theater. So it took me 2 more years to graduate with a degree in theater. But asterisk, this guy Ronnie Newman, his name is or was, I'm not sure at this point. A was in my Aunt Terry's graduating class from Lafayette High School, and B, 1 month later, we were on the QE2, it was the Queen Elizabeth II, going to Europe for a 3-month trip with this guy who I did not know. It was just a very heady, very strange, very quick.
Was this a romantic relationship?
It turned out to be.
Yeah.
Seminally romantic. Look, if anyone asked me to do anything, I would have. I didn't know how to say no to people, but Ronnie was lovely.
But when Ronnie invited you on the trip,
yes,
it was not a romantic invitation?
Oh, it was.
Oh, it was, okay.
Yes. But I didn't know the guy, but I took it.
You're on
I thought that my parents should know that I was that their son, who suddenly is not going to the shrink anymore, is going to Europe with this stranger. And that's the kind of relationship I had with my parents, because I was rather smart. I did well in school when I did, and
how did your parents handle it?
I literally had Ronnie come into the house the night before we were leaving.
Oh my God.
And that's when they found out that Ronnie was in the same graduating class as my Aunt Terry. They loved him.
Wow.
They loved him. This man was in sort of my life in one way or another for 10 years. He sent my mother roses on Mother's Day for 10 years in a row.
Wow.
My brother, who is straight, had a girlfriend he was engaged to. He's a little older than me. She was not allowed to sleep in the house. My parents allowed Ronnie, who is their age, to sleep in my bedroom in their house.
Wow, so he was your parents' age.
Yeah. He was in my Aunt Terry's
so he was
graduating class.
That's right, so much older than you.
Oh, yeah. I never liked people my age. That's why I like you guys.
Well, I'm Abe Simpson, so
anyway,
you are.
So I talk too much.
So,
no.
But now I'm really curious. How was the 3 months in Europe?
I put this guy through hell. It was awful for him,
but great for you.
You know, I didn't know anything. What am I?
You were like what, 19 years old?
Yes. Ronnie, though he may have been in a Broadway show, turns out he was the foremost collector of Oriental rugs in the world.
Wow.
The world. We would go to, if you Google him, he's famous. I didn't know that then. But we would go to, and he was paying it. I thought my parents shouldn't, what my parents gave me, they gave me $100.
Good luck. 3 months in Europe.
And they got 5 Oriental carpets.
I am not kidding anything. I didn't have a credit card. I didn't have anything. I had just gotten my own phone number in Brooklyn. And
I'm somebody. So I want to go back, because you said he saw you at Chorus Line.
Yes.
So you were already interested in theater at that time?
Yes. Always, but not, yes. It was.
You were interested as a patron.
I loved
as a patron. You weren't in the show. Yeah.
But you were a fan of great theater.
Yes.
Growing up in New York, you get exposure
and
to all
I
these
took
great
advantage of that.
That's great. A lot of people don't.
My parents were atypical of our Canarsie neighborhood. My father had was a Wall Street guy, and we lived in Brooklyn. And my mother was into theater, and I would go to matinees with my mom, and I loved it. My brother's a big jock, not particularly interested in any of this, but I loved it. And
your only sibling?
Yes.
So
right.
you
We're going to have to take a quick break.
I'm sorry.
Because we just have to thank the McCallum Theater, our presenting sponsor.
We can't thank them enough.
We cannot. They do great work. We're talking about theater. It's great to have a man of the theater with us.
Yes, I'm going to be fired from being artistic director after telling this.
No,
you
run this. It's your thing. You can't. You're going to fire yourself.
Exactly.
So we're going to pause for a moment here. A word from the McCallum Theater. Don't forget to go to McCallumtheater.org. They are always adding shows to the schedule. So if you are not sure which show you'd like to go see, just log on, check it out. We love the McCallum, our presenting sponsor.
The McCallum Theater's 2024-2025 season is on sale now. The world's top artists, from jazz, pop, classical, and comedy to the best of Broadway, only at the Valley's favorite place for great entertainment. Tickets are on sale now at the McCallum Theater box office, by phone, or online at McCallumtheater.org. Tickets sell quickly, so order yours today. A new, exciting season only at the McCallum. The McCallum Theater's 2024-2025 season is on sale now.
The McCallum Theater, your entertainment, your theater, the McCallum Theater. Thank you very much.
By the way, I missed Burton Cummings.
Did you? Oh, Bert was so good.
Was he? Oh, that's right. You did a meet and greet, right?
We did a meet and greet, and then I went to the after party with him. We, I spend time in L.A., and so Bert has a place there. We just hang.
Does he?
Yeah.
Does he still have a place there?
terrible question.
It's been tough month.
That's,
Yeah.
but you cannot. It's too soon to be glib about that. All right, we're back.
So,
No.
go ahead.
Oh no, you're
Well,
sorry.
you're on the QE2 and you're
That is
headed
true.
to London.
Yes.
You
To Southampton.
you
where it docks.
studied
We're the Titanic.
in London. Was that later
Yes.
or was it
Oh,
at the
yeah,
end
you're
of that
right.
trip?
Right. No, at this point, I'm still going to be a doctor.
Okay.
I'm heading to Europe a month after I meet this guy. I'm still a doctor.
Right.
My son, the doctor. It's still happening. It was that trip, that seminal. I saw a production, Ronnie and I, and again, I had $100, so I wasn't paying anything. And I smoked cigarettes at the time.
$100 wouldn't have lasted you the trip over.
Yeah. Well, they were like
hate
20
my
cents a
parents.
pack at the time.
How could my parents give me $100?
Well, they knew Ronnie had rug money.
Money. That's right. They did. Let him pay for it if he's going to corrupt my son. But we saw a production of Nicholas Nickleby that the RSC was doing, and it was literally at the Nicholas Nickleby before it became anything, and we went to see that, and that changed everything.
Really, that was the
everything.
after all the theater you saw in New York. That was the show.
The greatest thing. Anyone who would really have seen that will agree with me. That was the greatest piece of theater, modern theater, ever done.
Wow.
I mean, it was extraordinary. And this is before Angels, and this is before 9-hour shows. This is before that kind of storytelling, and every bit of it thrilled me, and I knew that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. And
So you come back from this trip, essentially a changed guy.
yes,
And you told your parents, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm doing theater.
I didn't even ever have a discussion with. I just did.
You just did it.
Yes, and my parents respected me enough to allow it. And I'm sort of joking about my son, the doctor. My parents really were into whatever made me happy.
That's great.
That's an honesty. And my mother's still alive. She's 93, a force of nature.
Wow.
Is she still in New York? Or is she?
No. She moved out to follow her son. She lives in a strange little town called Hemet.
Know him at well.
She moved in. No sooner did she go visit my mother, who lived in Beekman Place in Manhattan. One day she tells us, I went to see Cousin Ernie in Hemet. It's like, wait, Hemet? My mother lives in Beekman Place. And I'm selling my apartment, and I'm buying this house in Hemet. Okay.
I go through there on the way to Oceanside.
Oh, there
I'm
you go.
familiar with it.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Look, it's your money. It's your life. You do. By that time, she was a ripe 78.
Wow.
Able to
Good
make
for
her
her.
decisions.
I spent a week in him at one night.
Yes, exactly. Well, wait. Just the Hemet thing. It turns out like she got a house. A week later, did I realize I read an article in Vanity Fair that said, "Oh, Hemet, California. That's the headquarters of the Scientology prison is in Hemet."
Wow.
That's
I
where
thought Scientology was a prison. I didn't realize it had a separate.
The prison is in Hemet.
Got it.
Where I don't know if you follow any of those Leah Remini shows.
Oh, yeah.
It's all roads lead
Oh,
to Hemet,
my.
and it's the gang capital of Southern California. So, and I figured when
That's why Randy goes there.
Yeah. Well, if it's not Scientology, it's a gang. So,
it's one or the other.
the Silver Daddies.
All right.
Anyway,
I want to get back to this.
Can you edit this out?
We can.
No.
This is all really good. It's not changing a word of this one. So I'm just curious. You come back and you finish your schooling in
Yes.
theater. You get your degree.
I'm still pre-med. If you want to know the true, and so I guess you're going to have to come back one more time to finish, because literally I got back and I had been taking a theater course, and there was a professor, a very, very intellectual, erudite guy who wrote for the Village Voice. He was their theater critic, and he happened to be I didn't know him because it was a class of 200 people. His name is Gordon Rogoff, famous New York theater intellectual. I was taking his lecture class. I was one of 200 people, and I just came back from that, and I looked up his phone number in the because I gotta do theater. I gotta do theater. Nicholas McLuby, I gotta do theater. I didn't know what to do, and I looked up this guy's phone number in the phone when they had those things.
Back when they had a phone.
I literally called this guy, Gordon Rogoff, and he lived on the Upper West Side. Called him at his house, told him, I'm a guy in your lecture class, and I just came back, and then I don't know what to do. And he said, come to my office in 2 days. Of course, that's where my first anal warts came from, but I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Kidding, not kidding. Go ahead.
This guy then took it unto himself to guide me to where I should head next. And
Was this Brooklyn College?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And he led me to a thing called Williamstown Theater Festival, which was my first foray into acting. And
what was your first role? Do you remember?
My first role in my entire life?
Performing, yeah.
In my entire life.
Yeah.
Was playing, it was in elementary school.
Okay.
Playing Father Andrew in a 6th grade production of Prince and the Pauper, where I felt, why did they give the role of the prince to a girl? I wanted to be the prince. And they gave it to Sharon Amius. I remember her still.
Damn, Sharon.
Bless her heart. And so that was my first role. But
and
I was going to be a doctor.
But when you were on stage for that, were you feeling like this is kind of natural?
No.
No, he was mad at Sharon.
I was.
Yeah,
I didn't
true.
understand.
Yeah.
What was your first role after you studied theater, professionally?
My first professional role was a Sam Shep. Oh, this is a good story, and I don't really talk about these things, so I'm glad. This is a good story because it has a good peripheral story to it. It was a production of a Sam Shepard 3-act plays in a theater off-Broadway, and that is literally off-Broadway because it's 45th Street between 8th and 9th Avenue. That's off-Broadway.
Yeah.
My father had recently died, so I was whatever. But so I didn't understand the play. I didn't understand anything about it. But the stage manager of the play was a girl named Robin Lawford. Mean anything to you?
The last name Lawford does.
Mm-hmm. Related to Peter Lawford?
Uh-huh.
Turns out that Robin Lawford is Rose Kennedy's granddaughter.
Wow.
Was the daughter of Peter Lawford and Eunice. Did he marry Eunice? Who did? Pat Lawford Kennedy.
Yes.
Was harm, and literally before. This is what I get out of this production. My first off-Broadway play, the stage manager
the
is
Kennedy family.
Jackie Kennedy's niece. And literally my goal was, oh my God, I'm going to get invited to Hyannisport. That's my goal for this. I don't care anything about my career. Robin Lawford is going to like me.
Just don't let her Uncle Teddy drive you there.
Oh.
Too soon.
For God's
It is
sake.
too soon.
It's not too soon.
It wasn't too soon.
I do
right
have-
after.
I do have a tattoo of Mary Jo on my head. In solidarity.
Window half up. Yeah, man. Too soon.
Wow, that is wow.
I remember
that
certain
was
things.
insensitive.
That was.
I only
apologize to Mary Jo.
alluded to the car accident. Says Teddy Kennedy says we will drive off that bridge when we get to it. Let's move on.
So that's.
Did you get to Hyannisport?
No.
No.
But Pat Kennedy Lawford came to a show, and then at the very end, she wanted to meet us all, and she sat in the theater with her feet up like that on the thing, and us, I don't know, maybe 5 people in the cast around her, and whatever she was saying, what it was, whatever. But I do remember one story that she told, that Robin told. She did wind up liking me. I've never seen her since. But I made sure she liked me. I gave her Christmas presents.
Damn it, you're going to like me.
Oh, she was going to.
I even learned flag football for
anything. Exactly. Whatever it was. I learned how to drink Bloody Marys. But she, doesn't matter. Forget wrong. I forget. She did have great hair, and she looked just like a Kennedy. I forget what I was going to say.
So you're studying at Brooklyn College.
Yes.
I want to move forward because we only have a limited amount of time,
yes,
and we haven't even gotten into California.
Sorry.
So, and I want to get to the bent, but I want to.
Oh, the famous people I slept with. No, I'm not.
Yeah, we want those.
See,
just it doesn't have to be
That's
alphabetical.
Why I'm gonna.
It doesn't have to be just list.
It can be. It's very easy. The A's.
So you go into theater in New York. When did you come to California?
What brought me to California was, again, I referenced it before, my father had died at a very young age. He was 56 years old. So
my goodness.
I was, touching 20, early 20s. And there was a very, very, very good family friend of ours named Larry Albuca. Mean anything? He, in the highest of his career, he was VP of feature films at Paramount.
Oh, okay.
Pretty good, decent job.
He was a very good friend of my parents because they befriended him and took at a time in his life when he wasn't that. And so they call Larry to tell Larry that my dad died. And Bubba got into a conversation about me, and Larry said, "Well, Steven should come out to L.A. and I will introduce him to such and such." At this point, he was at Warner Brothers, and I did not want to go. I was doing a lot of theater. I was on my way in the theater world, which is a world that I understood. Movies never liked me. I don't understand. TV, nothing. I was awful.
And was it all acting then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Acting and a teeny bit of writing, but it was acting. And I was good, and I studied with great people, and they liked me. Not patting my pants. I'm not, because I hate myself. I do. Unlike other people who've been on your shows, I do not like myself.
A lot of them didn't like themselves, but that's okay.
We had a number of people who also had a mad love affair with themselves.
Not me.
No, that's true.
Not me.
But it's okay to admit that you were good at something.
I was.
And you were comfortable in the world of theater. So
yes, I understood it.
How did they get you out of your comfort zone?
Because the guy is dazzling TV things, and my family was like, "You gotta go, you gotta go." I don't want to go. You gotta go, you gotta go. And Larry said, "Well, he could stay at my house." And then I thought, well, if I don't go, I guess I should go. And then that's the cycle. You had to get in, and LA to me was, initially it was great. I got everything. I
Had you ever been to LA before?
No.
Okay. A different world.
Very.
Yeah.
And it was. I remember the night I got picked up by at the airport, and Larry took me back to his house in Woodland Hills, and he opened the door, and I could see in the backyard there was a lit swimming pool. And I was like, "Oh my God, I've arrived!" I swear, I'm Brooklyn. This is cement town.
Wow.
I'm still 20-something years old. I mean,
and you said you started auditioning. You got parts right away.
I did. I got all of it. The first TV show I did. I got the first shot.
What was the first TV show you did?
Was a show called. Is what it should be called. It was called Family Medical Center.
Was Chad Everett in that?
No. He should have been. I don't know what it was, but I played I don't know if I'm even allowed to use this term. I don't know how to say it otherwise, but that's what it was, a retarded person. And I was the non-retarded person amongst the retarded people.
Got it.
It was a scripted thing. It wasn't a documentary, but they dealt with real issues. And I know I got it because that's how I came across on in any audition. I came off as that. I was just not good in that. I just was terrible. A terrible audition.
But you got parts right away, so you weren't terrible.
Because I got a part as a retarded person.
What was your next part?
Cut to. Then I because I got involved in theater, the people I worked with had a bridge into movies, and I wound up, because of a play that I was doing, got my equity card because the casting director saw me, and I got my first big movie was a movie called it's with
It's a big one. I remember that one.
it's a good one.
Memorable.
I almost got an Oscar nomination to The Tie That Binds.
The Tie That
and
Binds.
it had Keith Carradine, Moira Kelly, Daryl Hannah.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
And I played an ogre.
So you were being typecast.
I played the overacting actor in the school play, the one who could be retarded.
Right.
And it was directed by it was done by the guy who did Hand That Rocks the Cradle. It was a big deal. Got my equity card. I got my SAG card. So that was my first, and then I did a bunch of stuff, but I wasn't good at it. I didn't like to audition.
So you threw yourself into the theater scene,
Yes, I did, and I did a lot of it, and
including the lesbian production where you met Terry.
Yes, and I can't remember which is first, Terry or the ogre, Daryl Hannah. I'm not sure, honestly, but it all happened all at the very same time. It was very quick, and
so you and Terry meet on that.
Yes.
Where he is the bird.
Yes. Lesbian seagulls.
that has two unfortunate fates.
Yes.
When did you actually start working together? You said you became fast friends pretty quickly.
I included Terry in everything that I directed in L.A.
When did you switch to directing? When did you decide you wanted to direct instead of being an actor?
Yesterday.
Or in addition, in addition,
finally made the commitment yesterday.
I've been doing it for years, but I just got committed yesterday.
It started with writer director, so I wrote stuff and I was involved in a theater that is still in existence in LA called the Open Fist Theater, and I wound up being one of the people that was running it at that period, and I had a creative leeway, and I wrote a piece that I did there. I directed stuff, and everything I did, I knew Terry. So I wanted Terry involved with it. One of the pieces that I did was called Chatter Chatter What's the Matter? And do you remember Holly Woodlawn? Holly came from Miami, FLA. The Louis song "Take a Walk on the Wild Side."
Oh, okay. Yeah.
She's one of Warhol's superstars. And I needed a part for a psychiatrist. And anyway, I wound up getting, in my first time out again, and I got Holly Woodlawn to play the psychiatrist in it, and that was a bizarre, crazy, wild experience. Talking about someone who never knew the lines, but we won't go there. Right. I know I'm going on a tangent, but
well, we want to get you to Palm Springs.
The whole podcast is a tangent. That's really
from episode one.
We should call it Big Tangents at Little Bar. Okay, I do want to get to Palm Springs because what you guys are doing with the Bent, I think, is really important for the town. You guys are the LGBTQ theater of note, and there wasn't one at this point when you and Terry decided to do this.
When there was the Desert Rose Theater,
yes.
and Terry and I did a production that they were doing, one of their last productions of the Mae West thing, drag and sex, pieces that she wrote. And then it turns out that we found out that the Desert Rose was going under for whatever reasons it did. And Terry and I, who were, gung-ho, was like, that can't be.
And you'd been doing electricity.
We had been, right. So we had the entree into Palm Springs through electricity, and so we got to know the people at what is now the Revolution, but then the Desert Rose and the Palm Springs Cultural Center, which is where we are now, invited us to to be, it gave us a platform. When Terry and I were like, well, there has to be let's.
It's Palm Springs.
So we went that route and we applied. Long story short, we decided to form our own company, and we formed our own 501c3. Took that whole process. We did it ourselves. We didn't know what we were doing. Terry's good on the computer. I'm not. I'm like, and we're like trying to figure out how to do, and we did it. We did the whole thing. We both put in $20 because you need certain money. You need certain things. Formed a board. You needed a 3-member board. Let's pull in the cashier from Ralph's.
Well-known theater person in town.
She's very talented. Randy.
That's the only aisle I go through.
So, and then we couldn't afford anything. We had $40 in the bank account, and Terry then. The Cultural Center invited us. They wanted us to do electricity. I personally wasn't interested. I did it. And then Terry had this play called The Lincoln Debate.
Right.
And A, it's a wonderful play.
Yes, it is.
And B, we could afford it. We don't have to pay the author any rights. So
Terry wrote it.
And he was kind enough not to take any payment for the play, which. So we did. That's what we were going to do. And we got this. We did not know anybody. I mean, I didn't know anybody. Terry moved here a little earlier than I did. I moved here during pandemic, and there was a cast of 5. We had an audition. I needed 2 people. 3 people showed up, and I had an elbow room of 1. I swear to God. And whoever we got was fabulous, and it wound up being a terrific success. And that was our first one, and the community embraced us very quickly. Yeah. People with some funds were very supportive of us and lucky, and we opened up that night. We stood on the stage that night, Terry and I, and we announced the theater crowd that was there that we had $4.85 in the bank account, which is true. And some lady held up $100 bill. Oh. And then literally a year later, what we had after that was, it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. And
well, having the Palm Springs Cultural Center as your home is,
yes,
I think, important, and because it's an easy place for people to go and enjoy it.
Yes.
And if you don't mind,
I do
about
mind.
halfway through this, you do mind. We're going to do it anyway. About halfway through the lifespan of that,
yes,
you ran into some health issues, and it was a pretty important time for the bent that was happening to you. Can you talk about that?
No.
Okay. So let's go back to the gal at Ralph's.
Can I talk about Ronnie Newman again? No, of course I can talk about it. And it turns out in the the math of this health equation was that, unbeknownst to myself, I've done everything with the Bed Theater. Excuse me. In February, not to be coy or anything like that. February of 24, I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung and brain cancer. Unbeknownst to me, I had no idea, except that I had a headache a year ago in Christmas that didn't go away. And preface, I had been with Cedars in L.A. for a bunch of years to figure out a problem with my legs. Something's going on with my legs. Well, they were myopic and just tested me for the same thing over and over and over and over, and were insistent that I had this, Guillain-Barré syndrome, whatever it was, and put me on treatments. And I kept on saying to them, I don't think this is working. I don't feel good. It's getting worse. And then finally got this headache that never went away, and I went to the emergency room in Eisenhower, and in the first 10 minutes, they gave me tests that Cedars-Sinai didn't do in 4 years. And the test said that you have lung cancer that has metastasized into the brain, and you've had it for a year and a half to 2 years, and blah, blah, blah. So that's my little health story. Oh, you mean the paper cut I got? Oh, I'm sorry. I went.
But you guys were in the middle of a pretty important time at the Bent as this was happening.
So literally, I get this which is the last time that I heard from my doctors in Cedars that I was with for 4 years. The last time I've heard from them was that morning when I in big caps I wrote to my LA doctor, I have a headache, it's not going away. It was 6 weeks into it, and then the next I get a message from go to the emergency room at Eisenhower today. And then I haven't heard from them since after this. So that I go to the thing, they come back. The next morning, the text goes on 7:30 in the morning, and I see it's my LA doctor at Cedars, and I think this can't be good. They never call me, let alone 7:30. So I put the phone back down, and I went back to sleep and ignored it me for 5 minutes, and I looked at it and said, "We'd like to talk to you ASAP. We'd like to set you a," and I thought I should go, and I set up my computer, my Zoom. It says 7:25 in the morning, and I lit a joint, and I smoked it, took a hit, put it back down. I said, okay, 5 minutes, I'm going to be ready. And she, without even saying good morning, Dr. Mahajian said, they found a tumor in your head last night. You have to go back to Eisenhower right now. And I looked at it and I said, I can't. I have an opening night tonight. Right. We have a play that is opening tonight. I am on my way to go to the florist and get my cast flowers. I have a reading for the inheritance of. I have 11 actors coming to my house.
This is not convenient.
I can't. And she looked at me, and I loved my doctor then. I loved her, and she said, Stephen, you will have other opening nights. You will not have this one. And I didn't know what to do, so I looked into the screen and I said, okay, how much time do I have? And she said, well, as soon as you play, you can. And I thought to myself, I suddenly knew what was going to be the deal. And I said to her, am I going to have to stay there? And she said, I think so. And I knew, I'm not letting anyone come into my house in this condition. I've got to clean the house. I have laundry to do. I have stuff. And I said that to her. I said, my house is clean. Because I wanted to be the guy that you come into my house and it's like, oh, my God, look how he keeps his house. He didn't even know anyone was coming. It's so perfect. So literally, I was like, okay. She said, as soon as you can. And I closed the thing. I took another hit. And I sat there and said, oh, my God, what did she just say? What do I do? So I had, so first person was Terry, and this is like now 10 of 8. I'm not an early guy, so they, anyway. And I was like, texted Terry, are you up? I texted my brother, are you up? I texted my ex, who was coming for opening night to stay at my house, are you up? And then another friend, are you up? And in that interim, before anyone responded, I was able to clean my house. I did.
The priorities.
Swear to God, there's no way I'm going to let anyone think I'm a pig. I'm not. Anyway, so blah, 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 blah. It was opening night of a show called The New Century. And so I know all the dates. It's February 10th. And then I go to the hospital, and they enroll me, whatever, and then the next thing I remember is some doctor touching my foot the next morning, looking at me and said, it was like, and then I guess they like to do things early too. And I don't, but the doctor looked at me and said, I guess said my name, yes. And they said, did anyone tell you that you have lung cancer? And I said, no. And does anyone tell you that you have brain cancer? And I said, no. And they said, okay. And he left. And I was like, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding about any of this. And I spent 19 days in there, and my brother came from Newport Beach. He was there by my side, and blah, 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 blah. And so that's the...
How's your outlook now?
Terrible.
Yeah?
No. It's I've responded very well to it all. I don't honestly dwell in it. I really don't talk about it. I don't. It is what it is. It's a word. Cancer is a word that scares the shit out of us.
Yeah.
If it gets me, it gets me. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I've said to the doctors, what do I tell my friends who ask me what, and they say, well, tell them you're responding very well to. I did the chemo. I had 7.5 weeks of everyday radiation. I know you went through that. We didn't really talk in detail about that, but the whole chemo. Tomorrow they take this fucking thing out of my thing, which was the porthole.
Yeah.
And I'm now on I will officially be off chemo and onto medication. And if it comes back in a year, so be it. I didn't lose my house in a fire. I'm not in the Gaza Strip. I'm running a theater.
You're back to running the theater. You're back
I'm
to
a
directing.
lucky man.
You actually acted in one of your productions?
Everything I've done with lung, and I like everyone to know I've done it with lung and brain cancer. So not only was I good, I was that good.
And one of the
this is how good I am when I'm sick. Well, just think if I was really 100% healthy.
Exactly.
One of the times I saw you had to jump in.
Yes,
at the last minute,
which is true.
On the show. What show was that?
That was It's Only a Play.
Right. And
you saw that?
I did see that. And suddenly you're directing, right? And
I was not directing that one.
You were not. Okay.
Right. I was acting. Because
it was a lead role.
It was a good role.
Yeah.
And I get the text that day, and again, this is new. I didn't cancel then. I just didn't want to do it. I don't act. I don't want to learn lines. Not because I don't have cancer. Daniela Kennedy was in that.
Yep.
And I get the text that morning. It's like, such and such got a better gig, which, fuck you. I understand it. I do. But I don't. I don't.
It's still not right.
It really,
but you get it, but it's not nice.
And it's not just. It's like, look what you're doing to the people you just rehearsed with for 5 weeks. You open in 4 days.
That's kind of
and I sat there and I did not believe me. I don't want to. It's not. I didn't want to be in it, and it's like shit. Well, the only person and I pick the material. I know these plays back and forth. That's my job. Is I pick the material. And so I know this play. I love the play. I didn't pick it from me, nor to direct. And it's like, okay, Tara, I think the only solution might be that I just will step into it. Because once upon a time, I was good at it.
You were amazing in it.
Well, that's very kind. I did win the DTL award.
Yes, I know you did.
I believe me, none of it had meant anything to me, certainly at the time, because I didn't want to do it.
Right.
But I did, and so 4 days I got the thing, and
Amazing.
And then it was like I was insistent that take the script out of my hand. I will, and that's how I did it.
And I whine all the time to Terry that I can't remember a line, and you had to do that. That was pretty cool.
Lung and brain cancer.
Yeah. I'm just a slacker.
See.
So,
but I hear you turned gay from his class.
Well, I'm working on it.
It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. So what's coming up for the Bent?
Yeah, what are you guys working on?
What is at main stage next show is called Perfect Arrangement, which is a delicious little ditty set in 1950 in the not a farce because it's based on the truth, but about a government organization that was set up to infiltrate deviant behavior during the Lavender Scare. And it is written by Topher Payne. Really, really, really great. I pride myself so far on picking material and everything. This will be our 12th production in 2 years.
Yeah.
11 of them have never been done here. This particular production has been done before, which caused me angst but I love the place so much. And Jason Rial is directing.
Amazing.
He does that great graphics. He played Lincoln for us.
That's right.
He was in It's Only a Play too. He's a terrific, wonderful talent. Love the guy.
I learned a very valuable lesson with Jason.
You did?
I did the audition at CV Rep in August or whatever for all the theater companies.
Yes.
And my only callback was to the Bent for that play. And Jason said, "Can you do a Southern accent?" And I went, "No."
Stop.
Well, I ultimately found out that was the exact wrong answer. So
Yeah, no matter what they ask you.
the answer is always yes.
The
Of
answer
course.
is
Yes, of course
Yeah,
I
so-
can climb
Yes.
buildings in a single bound.
So now
I was
say
doing
yes
that last
again.
week.
Exactly.
Steve, this has been fantastic. Thank you
Really?
so much.
You swear to God?
No, it's been...
I haven't humiliated myself.
No. Oh, gosh, no. You have entertained us wildly, which is the whole point of this thing.
Listen,
I'm a lucky man.
You are loved in this valley. Danielle's talked about it. Barbara Kerr talked about it. Obviously, Terry loves you. You've made quite a splash
In your
this
2
community.
years, you and Terry, both the Bent, and you have all made a great impression on the valley, and you're doing great work. And we just really appreciate you coming in and doing
I
this.
can't thank you enough, honestly. Thank you for having me.
Oh, this is a blast.
This has been so much fun.
Could have done this one all day.
Yeah, we're going to be
I'm glad.
talking about this one for a while.
I hope
Yeah.
so.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, on our guest, Steve Rosenbaum, and please support the Bent Theater. They're doing great work, and they put on great productions, wildly entertaining, and Steve does an incredible job of cultivating some really, really fine material. So you want to support the Bent Theater. And my co-host, sidekick, good friend Randy, thank you, sir. All right, that wraps up this edition of Big Conversations Little Bar. Our thanks to Skip Page and his entire team here. Our thanks to McCallum Theater, our presenting sponsor. Your entertainment, your theater, the McCallum Theater, McCallumtheater.org. You can subscribe so you never miss an episode of Big Conversations Little Bar, available on all of your favorite podcast platforms. I'm Patrick Evans. Join us next time.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Big Conversations Little Bar. Recorded on location at Skip Page's Little Bar in Palm Desert, California, and presented by the McCallum Theater. Online at McCallumtheater.org. This program is a production of the Mutual Broadcasting System. All episodes are available from BigConversationsLittleBar.com and most major podcast portals.
Meet your neighbors, fascinating and grand. Each conversation, a wave on the sand. Raise your glass and join the ride, where stories and dreams fully collide. At Big Conversations Little Bar, brought to you by McCallum, our guiding star. From movie, stage, and TV's delight, join us for a captivating morning, noon, or night. So gather round at Skip's Little Bar, where stories travel from near and far. Big conversations where they unfold, with Patrick and Randy, tales retold.